Okay, so I'm gonna get right into this video because I have a lot to talk about. I could probably spend forever talking about this topic because I'm that passionate about it. So let's get started. First of all, I want to start off this video with a disclaimer because everybody's breastfeeding journey is completely different. Everybody has their own experiences, and this just happens to be my experience. So don't let anything that I say, you know, change your whatever you're planning on doing, okay? I'm gonna get right into it. I wrote a bunch of notes on my phone, so if I'm looking down, that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna try to go through this quickly because I have a lot to talk about. So this is in no particular order, so if I'm going back and forth or bouncing around, that's why. Starting from the beginning. While I was pregnant, I just knew that I wanted to breastfeed. No one could tell me anything different. I was absolutely positive that I wanted to breastfeed. I did do a little research on breastfeeding, not really. I would just watch other people's videos and they would just happen to bring up their breastfeeding experiences, and they would talk about how difficult breastfeeding was for them, so that they would say that they stopped breastfeeding, they gave up on breastfeeding because it was difficult or their milk didn't come or whatever. So I had little bits of like fear kind of, but I was super confident for whatever reason that breastfeeding was just gonna work out for me. I was like, I'm gonna go into this positively. I'm not gonna have any type of negative mindset, so everything's gonna work out perfectly for me. Everything's gonna be great. No. So starting off, the first day that I gave birth naturally. So they gave me the baby. As soon as I had her, she was placed on my chest. Within the first like 5-10 minutes, she was on my breast, and I was like, wow, this is super easy. This is great. Like, this is amazing. When I went back to the room, it's called Mother Baby in the hospital that I was in. When they put us in that room, I just continued to try to breastfeed her. Now, I didn't do a bunch of research on breastfeeding, so I didn't know how long to have the baby on. I didn't know anything about Latch. I didn't know anything like at all. So I had the baby on me and I thought she was starving. She was just on me and she wanted to be on me constantly, and like she was trying so hard to get milk out. If you don't know anything about breast milk, and after you give birth, you usually start off producing colostrum, which is just super nutritious. Do your research on it. It's really good for the baby, whether you're gonna breastfeed or not. I recommend that you at least try to give the baby your colostrum. You produce colostrum first, and then your milk comes in a couple days later. So I was aware of that, but I didn't really fully understand it. So I was feeding the baby, but I didn't realize that the latch was horrible. This is like the most important thing, I feel like, with breastfeeding. You have to have a good latch. I didn't know anything about a latch, so when I started hearing people talking about a latch, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, what is that? Pretty much the baby needs to be on your breast a certain way for everything to work. And my daughter didn't want to be on my breast correctly. She had a really bad latch, and pretty much what that causes is pain. I think the first like day or two of breastfeeding, it didn't really, I don't know if it was just like the high of being in the hospital and just having her and whatever, I didn't really feel anything. I think it was like the third day, like that same day I was leaving the hospital maybe, that like the breastfeeding issues were kind of, I was getting worried because I was like, I don't know, how do I know if she's getting enough milk? How do I know if I'm producing enough? How do I even know if I'm producing? How do, like, it feels a little sore. I don't know if it's supposed to feel like this. Like, I was just like overthinking everything a lot. The number one way they tell you to know if your baby's getting enough breast milk is that they're making enough wet diapers and enough poop diapers. She was a newborn. When you have a newborn, they produce something called, I think it's meconium, something, I don't know, it's like a black tar like poop. She was going to the bathroom a lot. She was going perfectly fine. All the tar was coming out, and they say that your breast milk is what helps them release that. So she was releasing it, so I was like, okay, she's good, like everything's fine. She was gaining weight, like she actually, they say that your babies lose weight in the hospital like the first couple of days, and then they should start gaining it back. So she lost a little bit of weight, and they sent us home. And after they sent us home, my nipples were really sore, but I didn't really think anything of it. When I was at the hospital, the lactation consultant there helped me out a little bit. She didn't really help me much, in my opinion. Fast forward to going home. We got home, my nipples were so sore. It was it was painful. They were really sore and tender, but I was trying to manage it. Fast forward a couple more days, they were raw. I was bleeding. It was bad. My baby was chomping on my nipples. So instead of, like, let's say this is like my breast and like my nipple, instead of having her, I feel like I didn't know what to expect. So her mouth was only like on my nipple, and she was just like tugging at my nipple to the point where the meat on my nipple was missing. She was eating the meat off of my breast, like she was eating the meat off my nipple. I kid you not. They were raw, they were bleeding. It was excruciating. It hurt so bad. I didn't know what to do. I would cry every single day to feed her. It was a nightmare. I was terrified, but I refused to give up. Like, I just did not want to give up. I didn't want to give up. But so she was on my nipple like this, and she's supposed to, like, the baby's supposed to be on your breast. It's called breastfeeding, not nipple feeding, okay? The baby should be on your breast. So I was in so much pain. I literally spent the first few weeks after I had her just looking up YouTube videos on how to breastfeed. I was looking up, I was researching on Google. I was looking up videos. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to do. I was trying to call hotlines at like 3 in the morning for breastfeeding because it was just so bad. And I personally refused to give my baby formula. Now, I want to say that there's nothing wrong with giving your baby formula if you have to give your baby formula, or if there's complications with breastfeeding, or if formula just works out for you and your family better, then that's your prerogative. That's your choice. As long as your baby's fed, then your baby's fed. For me personally, I personally wanted to stick it through, and I wanted to do what I felt was best for my baby, and I wanted to breastfeed my baby, strictly just breastfeed. So with all the pain, I tried my best to stick it through. I would sit, and I felt horrible. I felt like a bad mom because when it would come to feeding time, it was so painful that I would sit there and tremble. I would just sit there and tremble and shake my legs, and just, it was so excruciating for me, and I was bleeding and I didn't know what to do, that I would just bawl crying, and I would just sit there feeding her crying and like trembling because it hurt so bad. Before I would have to feed her, it was like, I don't even know how to explain. I would fear when it would come time to feed her. I was like dreading her feeding times. I was dreading having to feed her because I was in so much pain. So that made me feel horrible because I knew that it was something that she needed and she wasn't doing it purposely, and like it just made me feel super horrible because I wanted to feed her and I knew I needed to feed her, but I was scared. Like, I was dreading the time that, like, for it to come. So I honestly just felt like a human pacifier. She was on me, I felt like every 30 minutes, and she would stay on me for like 40 minutes to an hour, and that's because she had a bad latch. When your baby has a bad latch, the milk doesn't come out correctly and you can lose milk supply, so that's going to cause your baby to either not want to be on your breast at all, or to stay on your breast for a very long time because they're not getting the milk sufficiently enough. So in my case, she just wanted to stay on me all the time because she wasn't getting enough milk because she had a horrible latch. If the baby's only on your nipple, they're not like massaging your breast in like the correct way to get the milk out. So that's what was causing like the pain, and like she would make my nipples dry and sore and literally bleeding. Like, there were pieces of my nipple missing. It was really bad, and then her lips would get really dry. It was just a terrifying time. So at this time, at the first couple of days when she was home, she was actually jaundiced, which freaked me out even more because I was like, she's not getting enough milk. She stopped going to the bathroom, going number 2, which is completely normal, but like I didn't really realize that. And like her eyes were yellow, and I was just freaking out, and it was a couple of days to her first pediatrician appointment. So like I was literally just, I was going crazy because I felt like I wasn't sufficient enough for my child. And then I also felt selfish because I was in so much pain and I didn't know what to do. So just so you know, to put it in perspective, when you first come out of the hospital and your baby's just a couple of days old, they barely need any milk. I'm not to say that when your baby's hungry, feed them, but their stomach is so small that you're producing enough milk. You're gonna be producing enough milk. Don't stress yourself out over it. That was one of my biggest things. I didn't know if I was giving my baby enough milk. If your baby's peeing enough, you're giving your baby enough milk. So the first thing that I did when researching about all the pain and agony that I was in was get a nipple shield. Now this is what a nipple shield looks like. It's just like this little, I believe it's like silicone thing. They have different sizes depending on your breast and nipple or whatever. So it's just this little thing. It's very floppy and it has 4 holes in like the nipple part, so you would just like place it on your breast. Your nipple would go in there like that, and then the baby can suck on this part instead of being directly on your skin. Now I guess my boobs or my nipples were so raw and just damaged at that point that having this on my breast killed me as well. This did not work for me. It hurt really bad, but I'm including it in the video because reading all the reviews, and the reason why I got it was because it worked for other women. So if you don't let your breasts get as bad as I let mine get, definitely I would recommend trying these out. You might want to check with your hospital. Your hospital might have these. I ended up getting this one on my own, but you can try this and maybe this will work for you. I want to say it was like 4 days after I came out of the hospital. One day I just woke up and my boobs were huge. It looked like I got a boob job. Like I went from just like my regular size, because I feel like my breasts didn't really, they might have gotten a little bit bigger during pregnancy because I gained weight, but they just felt normal. One day I woke up and they were super hard. Like they were just really hard and big and just like boom. That took me by surprise, but I was kind of actually excited because I was like, oh my god, my milk came in, like this is it, maybe this will help. No. So when your breasts get engorged, number 1, it's uncomfortable. Number 2, I don't know, this might be a little bit TMI, but when my breasts are engorged, they're so hard that the baby can't get a good latch. It's just hard for the baby to get a good latch. So like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like your nipples get hard and your boobs are just so big and they can't get a good latch because your boob is like a rock, like your boobs get hard. So it's hard for the baby to get a good latch. So like now, if my breasts get engorged, like the baby wants to be, it's hard for the baby to wrap her mouth around my breast. So like she's on the nipple and it hurts. So try not to like let your breasts get engorged. It's gonna happen sometimes. My tip for that is to hand express or pump for like 2 minutes. I usually just hand express into like a bottle or something. Please do that, because if you don't, it could be super painful and you don't want that to happen. So another mistake that I was doing after my breasts were, like my milk came in, when I saw that my boobs were hard and like engorged, I was like, oh my god, my boobs are full. So what I would do was let my boobs get to the point to where they were engorged, because I thought, oh, like my body is filling up my breasts and like that means I have a bunch of milk, so I'm gonna wait until my boobs are engorged and then I can feed my baby all this milk. No, don't do that. When you allow your breasts to get engorged, your body thinks that your baby doesn't need that milk, because your body's saying, oh well, all this milk is filling up here and it's not like being used, so I'm not gonna keep producing all this milk because it's just gonna sit here. When you let your breasts get engorged, you're depleting your milk supply slowly. Don't do that. I learned the hard way. So I think I was suffering for a good, I want to say for the first like 5 or 6 weeks, I was suffering through the pain of breastfeeding. It was really bad. I was so close. When I'm telling you guys, I was extremely close to giving up and using formula. I was so close to giving up and using formula. It was really, really bad for me. While I was pregnant, I told you guys that I already had it in my mind that I strictly only wanted to do breast milk and no formula at all. So I didn't buy any formula. But for some reason, I don't know if it's just like signing up to all the little like freebie things or whatever, I got 2 full-size things of formula sent to my house. I don't know why. Enfamil sent me some formula and some other brand, or was it the same brand? I don't know. I know that I got formula, full-sized cans sent to me for free of charge. I never signed up for it, nothing. It was just like a sample, but it was full-size cans, and formula isn't cheap. So I had it readily available at my fingertips, but I wanted to like hide it and not look at it because I knew it was there, and I was extremely tempted to give it to her. I was doing a bunch of research. I would sit there in pain researching, like as she's feeding on me, the transition from breast milk to formula, because I was so close. It was such a bad experience for me at the beginning. I was tempted. I just want to say, try not to give up. I am so grateful that I didn't give in to giving her the formula, because it got better. You read a bunch online about not giving your baby a bottle too early or giving your baby a pacifier too early because of nipple confusion. This was stressing me out really bad because I was getting to the point where I was physically unable to breastfeed my child because my nipples were in so much pain, and I didn't want to not give her breast milk. So I was doing a bunch of research on whether your breast milk is the same coming from a bottle and if I should just strictly bottle feed and whatever. So I found a couple of searches of women that strictly bottle fed their babies breast milk. In my mind, I thought, okay, well, if I can still give my baby the breast milk and it's just not on my breast, then that's better. I'd rather do that than like switch to formula right away. So I was doing a bunch of research, but for some reason I still felt guilty, like she's not gonna be bonding with me, it's not gonna be the same, like am I doing her wrong, is there like a difference? As long as your baby's getting whatever it is, be grateful. So in my case, I finally gave in and decided that I was gonna try with the bottle because I was in so much pain and I didn't want to give up breastfeeding. So I tried with the bottle, but I was terrified. I was like, if she's either gonna reject the bottle and only want my breast, or she's gonna only want the bottle and she's never gonna take my breast again the same, it's just gonna make it worse for me and I'm never gonna be able to breastfeed her again. I took the leap and gave her a bottle. I think we started off with an Advent bottle or something, but the nipple was like, it would like fall into itself, it would collapse into itself. So we got frustrated with those and we stopped, and then we went to Dr. Brown's bottles, and that's what she was using for forever. And then I eventually gave up on those because it's just too many pieces or whatever, but she started taking the bottle. So I found a really great lactation consultant in my area, and I talked to her and she gave me the green light, even though it's completely your decision, but I needed her confirmation to bottle feed. So my right breast was way more painful than my left breast for whatever reason. So the lactation consultant advised me to try to feed her on my left breast and pump on the right. So I was doing that, but then eventually my left breast became painful. So then they provided me a pump, a hospital grade pump, while my insurance breast pump came in. So they advised me to pump my breast milk and then have someone else bottle feed her. They told me not to bottle feed her. They wanted someone else to bottle feed her because I don't know. I was really confused by that. I guess it causes confusion for the baby. But I gave her bottles anyway. At the beginning, her dad was giving her bottles, but it came to the point where he had to go to work and it was just unrealistic. So I had to eventually give her bottles, and she took the bottles fine. I think within like a couple of days, my nipples felt so much better and they started healing. So I ended up trying to go back on my breast again, and it became a little easier because they weren't in so much pain. So eventually breastfeeding became a little easier because my nipples weren't in so much pain and I gave them time to rest. But I would mostly bottle feed until my nipples were completely healed. Once my nipples were completely healed, we kept trying with the latch, and eventually she just got it. I guess I got lucky and she just got it. Now, I don't want to say that it was 100% overnight, like perfect, because still to this day, breastfeeding isn't painful at all for me, but my nipples do become sore some days. I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys a couple of tips and things that helped me with my breastfeeding journey. So number one, a good support system is amazing. Her dad would sit there with me and just like watch me breastfeed, and like he looked so concerned and like terrified every time I would have to breastfeed because he saw how much pain I was in. He saw all the bleeding and cracked nipples and just like pain, and he was super concerned, but he was super supportive as well. He would sit there with me and just like keep me sane. And he would tell me, you know, whatever you decide to do is what you decide to do. I'm like here for you 100%, so keep doing what you're doing. So having a good support system is key, because I did have people that were like, well, maybe you should try formula, and that was super frustrating for me. But then like it would get in the back of my head like, maybe it's not so bad. I like nah. Again, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it just wasn't for me. So try not to listen to the people that are going to tell you maybe you should just go to formula, maybe you should just try formula. I've even got that your baby becomes more picky if you strictly breastfeed, which I actually heard the opposite. I heard that breast milk actually gives your baby a broader palate because they're tasting all the foods that you're eating. They're getting a little, you know, glimpse of that. So I don't know. The number one thing is I'm going to say is follow your heart. Try to have a good support system. If you don't, then just follow your heart, ignore everybody else's comments. Something else that was super great advice was hind milk and fore milk. So if you're worried about your baby not being full or not getting enough milk, something that I didn't realize when I started breastfeeding was you have hind milk and you have fore milk. Fore milk is the milk that comes out at first. So if you like hand express or if you express into a bottle or something, when you first start pumping or expressing your milk, however you do it, the milk is going to be like a it looks like watery milk. It looks like a super light colored milk. It's like a super light white color, and then once you keep going it gets like a little richer and it'll look more like a more opaque milk. I don't know. So the light watery colored milk is called fore milk, and that's all the water that the baby needs. That's all the hydration for the baby. The darker, more opaque, richer milk is called hind milk, and that is the fat that the baby needs that's going to keep the baby full and all the nutrients and stuff that's in the milk. So you're gonna have hind milk and you're gonna have fore milk. When you put the baby on one side, make sure that you leave the baby on that side. I would say, I was told for at least 15 minutes, so that you make sure that the baby gets the fore milk and the hind milk, because if you put the baby on, let's say, your right side for 5 minutes and they only got fore milk, and then you switch them over to the other side, they're getting fore milk over here, or fore milk on the right side and then fore milk on the left side too, and your baby's most likely gonna get hungry again super quick, and that might confuse you and you might think that your baby's not getting enough milk, when the case is actually that they're just getting fore milk from both sides and then they get full off of that, but then they get hungry again because it goes through their system because it's just water that they're getting practically. So you want to make sure that they're getting the fore milk and the hind milk before switching them over to the other side if they still want milk. Supplements. Do I take supplements for my milk? Currently, no, I do not. At one point, yes, I did. So once I hit my sixth week, for some reason, even though I was exclusively breastfeeding, for some reason I like got my menstrual cycle. I heard that if you are breastfeeding you don't get your menstrual cycle, but I got it after my 6 weeks. That, I guess, made my hormones go a little crazy and my milk supply dropped really bad. Plus I was stressing really bad at that point too, so my breast milk really went down. I went from pumping like 4 ounces to pumping like maybe 1, and that was stressing me out even more. So that was making my milk supply drop even more. I ended up doing some research and going out and getting 2 different supplements. This is not sponsored at all. These are just the things that I got and they actually worked for me. So this is a fenugreek and blessed thistle breastfeeding supplement, and it's just little pills that you take. And then I also got the fenugreek and blessed thistle drink. This is literally just something that I would open up a water bottle, drop this in, and then like shake it up, and it's like a weird tasting fruit punch. Honestly, it's not the best thing, but I got this and these. I would take them both and they actually work. It took a couple days, but my milk supply actually went up quite a bit. The only thing that I would say about these things were that it made me a little gassy, and it also made my baby a little gassy. So I was reading reviews on people that said that happened, but I was desperate to bring my milk supply up, so I did try it, and once I stopped, my milk supply continued because I kept breastfeeding and pumping regularly. So those things actually work. Do your own research. I'm gonna link them down below so you guys can look them up if you guys are curious, but those things actually did help me increase my milk supply. Something else that helped, so something else that I'm currently still taking, and maybe this is what helps me as well, is postnatal vitamins. So my postnatal vitamin that I take is the New Chapter Perfect Postnatal Multivitamin, and this is just what it looks like. So that's the postnatal vitamin that I take. A lot of people take their prenatals and either continue their prenatals or just stop taking vitamins at all after they give birth, but it's actually super important to continue to take your vitamins, especially if you're breastfeeding. There aren't many postnatal vitamins out there, but this one is a really good one, and it has a bunch of natural ingredients in it. And this one actually, you can be taken on an empty stomach and helps with lactation, energy, and mood. They're vegetarian, also not sponsored. I actually use their prenatals and I had absolutely no problems with them. You can also take those on an empty stomach, which was amazing for me because I wasn't eating at all at the beginning of my pregnancy, so at least I was taking my vitamins. But I do take those, and those are super important, not only for you but the baby as well. So since we're on the topic of vitamins, when your baby is breastfed, you need to, your breast milk has pretty much all the vitamins that the baby needs except for vitamin D. So when I took my baby to the pediatrician, she prescribed us a vitamin, but the vitamin just wasn't sitting right with the baby. So I ended up going online and finding something very natural. It's pretty much just vitamin D and coconut oil, I believe. It's called Baby's Super Daily D3. This is what it looks like. It's literally just this little bottle here, and you just put a drop on your nipple, and then when you go to breastfeed, that's how the baby gets the vitamin. It doesn't have a flavor or anything, or a scent to it. I think it's just literally coconut oil and vitamin D, and it's literally just a drop that you need to add, and your baby gets their vitamin, so they don't even realize. So that's just the vitamin that I use. It's been fine with her. I'll link that down below as well. So something else that I ended up getting and using from when I was struggling with my sore nipples was nipple creams and nipple butters. So I think I had one from like, I got like a little sample of nipple cream that I used, and I think they're made out of, what is it? Sheep something? I don't know. They're made out of something weird, but I wanted something more natural, so I ended up getting this organic nipple butter, and this is just what it looks like. I ended up getting this organic nipple butter. It is from Earth Mama. If I can find this, I will link it down below as well. But I wanted this because it was organic, it's lanolin free, it's not sticky at all, and I was using this, but my nipples were so sore that having them be wet, I felt like it almost made them more sore because they were so moisturized. I don't know if that makes sense. So I used this for a little bit, but I stopped. But when I would apply it, I would just apply it, and then before I would feed the baby, I would just like wipe it off as best as I could and then feed the baby. But if you guys are looking for a more natural or organic lanolin free nipple cream or nipple butter, definitely look into this one right here. I will also have this link down below for you guys. So another little tip that I would suggest for when you're breastfeeding is to check baby's diapers wet. I know that your baby could get fussy or might not want to drink if their diaper is wet, so it's worth checking. If your baby's super fussy or doesn't want to eat, maybe they just have a wet diaper. Also with the sore nipples, if you are breastfeeding currently, if your nipples do get sore and you're wearing breast pads, make sure that you change out your breast pad. It could just be that your breast pads are wet, and having wet breast pads sit on your nipples makes them super sore for some reason. I don't know, it just it contributes into the soreness, trust me. Change your breast pads, because if you just leave them there wet, if you're out or something and you don't have an extra change, it could become painful. Speaking of breast pads, so I ran out of breast pads and I was going out, and one day I was at the supermarket, and as I was checking out, my breast decided to leak. I don't know if the girl noticed, but I noticed, and I was super embarrassed and self-conscious about it. So a little tip is, if you run out of breast pads, or if you think it's just the cheaper option, which is what I did, use panty liners as breast pads. Just gonna throw it out there. If you don't have breast pads, make sure you carry panty liners with you. Put a couple in your diaper bag just in case, and I'm sure they will come in handy eventually. Another thing that I didn't really realize was that when you're breastfeeding and the baby's on one side, the other side will leak as well, as if, I don't know, the other side just leaked. So something that was super convenient for me, especially at the beginning, was the haka. While I was breastfeeding, I would get a nice amount of milk in the haka, and even if you don't get like a superb amount of milk in it, just keep saving that milk in like a little bottle in the fridge, and then you can save it till you have enough to put in like a little freezer bag, and then that's how you can build up your milk stash. When you're wearing a breast pad or just like having clothes on, I would walk around the house topless a lot of the times when I first had my baby, because anything rubbing against my chest would just hurt. It was just, so having a breast pad on me or just like anything rubbing against me was just painful. What I'm about to show you guys changed everything for me. These things I'm in love with. So I think it's called a breast cup, I don't even know, but this is pretty much what it looks like. A little like cup thing, hard plastic, and then this little silicone part here, and you just, it's a lot easier than I'm making it look. You just close the silicone part, connect it, there's a hole here, your nipple goes here, there's a hole up here, and this is to pour the milk out when you're done. Pretty much You pop this right into your bra and it catches the milk. That's it. You don't have to have anything crazy hanging off of you. You don't have to have no bra on or your shirt off or whatever. If you're out in public and you can't use the haka or whatever the case, pop this into your bra and your milk is caught. No one will know. If you want to breastfeed laying down, like I do, because it's super convenient sometimes. Sometimes I'm just super tired. Sometimes I want the baby to go to sleep, so I will lay down with her and she'll knock out. This, my friends, changed everything for me. Your nipple is sitting in here. It's not even, well, for me, it's not like touching the other side of the plastic, so it catches the milk. I love this thing. I will definitely have this linked down below for you guys because this was amazing. If you don't want to use breast pads, if you're just going out somewhere and your nipples are sore, whatever the case may be, look into this because this was a game changer. This was great. The only thing that I will say that was annoying about this is that they're so comfortable and convenient for me. Sometimes I will like bend down and forget that I have it on and then the milk spills. So that could be annoying. Just don't forget you're wearing it. It's getting hot in here. I'm glistening. Because it's hot and I'm sweating. So another thing that I didn't realize that was super important in breastfeeding is your diet. Your diet can impact a lot with breastfeeding and I didn't really realize that. So for me, I really realized how important my diet was when I first gave birth. There was like a good 3 or 4 days that I was overdosing on cheese because cheese is amazing, and then my baby's face started breaking out really bad. She got really bad baby acne. It was horrible, and I kind of put 2 and 2 together that maybe it was the cheese. Once I tried to eliminate the cheese, her baby acne started getting better. Then she's also super gassy to the point where she's like screaming about it, and like when she has to poop, like she screams and like cries sometimes. So I went to the doctor and her pediatrician told me that she was just colicky, which I wasn't buying because supposedly colic is just like when the baby screams and cries for no reason. But I knew that it was gas and like poop that was bothering her. It was just her tummy was hurting. So I stopped eating cheese and like all dairy, and her skin started to get better. And then for some reason I was like, oh well, like maybe it wasn't that. And I went back to the cheese and dairy, and then her whole chest and body, well not her whole body but her like chest started getting super dry red patches. It almost looks like eczema, and I looked it up, and eczema could be triggered by a dairy allergy or intolerance by your baby. So I'm back on the no cheese and no dairy because as good and as amazing as cheese is, I can't enjoy a meal knowing that it's going to potentially harm my child. So I'm gonna have to cut that out for a long while until I'm not breastfeeding her anymore, and then I can enjoy stuff for myself. But as of right now, we're trying to stay away. So just take that into consideration. If your baby seems super uncomfortable or seems like they have tummy issues or their skin is going crazy, try to see if it's anything in your diet. Maybe it's beans that are like bothering their tummy, or soy or dairy or something like that. So definitely make sure you're eating a nice clean diet for your baby, because if not, you could be potentially part of the problem. I recommend keeping water and snacks by your vicinity while you're breastfeeding, because while I'm breastfeeding sometimes I feel super dehydrated. It like just hits me, and then I feel like I can't get up because she's feeding, and it's just gonna be complicated, and just the water is too far and I'm exhausted. Sometimes I feel drained and like I'm gonna pass out. Like I just get weak because I'm hungry and thirsty, and it's like a job. Breastfeeding is like a job, and it really is draining. So make sure you have things around you before you start feeding the baby. Breast milk is like magic. There's so many benefits to breast milk. I feel like the last tip that I'm going to leave you guys with, or the last piece of advice that I'm going to leave you guys with is don't stress. Stressing while breastfeeding will cause your milk to dry up like no other, and I know this firsthand because it's true. There was a point where I was stressing so bad just about having to go back to work and just leaving my baby and separation anxiety and just a bunch of different things. My milk supply started to really decrease like a lot, and once I just let go of everything and just started to really focus on me and my baby and just like the positives and just be grateful for everything, my milk supply slowly went back up. Just don't stress, don't overthink things. If you're stressing about your milk supply being low, your milk supply is going to be low. if you're stressing about just other things in life, just try to enjoy the time that you have with your baby. Just focus on you and your child. I know that it's easier said than done, but just try not to stress, because it doesn't help. It just makes things a lot harder for yourself and a lot worse. So yeah, I feel like I've been rambling on. I'm sweating. It's hot. What time is it? I've been here for like an hour just talking, so editing is gonna be exciting. I'm gonna go to sleep because I've been talking for forever and I never get sleep. So let me take advantage now that she's sleeping to go to sleep. She's probably gonna be up in like a couple hours. So I'm gonna wash my face and try to get some rest. I hope you guys learned something from this video, because I know that when I was going through my painful, just stressful, emotional stage in breastfeeding, I was doing a lot of research, and a lot of like tips and tricks did help me, and some advice that I was getting did actually help me. So I'm just hoping to be able to do the same for someone else. Hopefully you're watching this before you are at the stage where you're struggling, so that you can put these things into consideration and hopefully not have to go through any negative things. But yeah, just push through. Don't let anyone's negative advice get to you. Do your research and just enjoy the process. Enjoy the moments that you have with your baby. Enjoy the bonding, because it's a beautiful thing. And that's what I'm gonna leave you guys with. So thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Let me know your breastfeeding experiences, because I would love to hear whether you had a good experience or bad experiences, and what you did and how you overcame them. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.